Klarna had specific goals in terms of profitability, in terms of making sure that the company itself survives. So I definitely not saying that it's like a really horrible move. It's just not really for me. So that's a good example of when AI is seen just a solution to like how to fix the problem of having too many people, how to fix the problem of having bigger teams that you need. And when AI is seen as a solution, you have to, first of all, compete with the tool, basically, because what I remember was happening was everyone saw ChatGPT OpenAI, everyone was like, let's say, working with me, and they got some solutions, and they would be like, okay, let me check this actually. Let me try the tool, and let's see if the result is the same. And we were talking about like design reviews, high-level stakeholders conversations. It means that your expertise is constantly rechecked, which is not a good feeling. And you constantly have to prove your value to actually prove that your solution is the best. And we all know how AI operates. If you take, let's say, my solution, and you just go to, say, ChatGPT, and you say, okay, I have this. Do you think it's good enough? Do you think there is a better solution for that? And OpenAI will always give you a better solution, because their goal is to see what you're asking and see that you need a better solution, and they will offer it, even if your solution is quite good overall. So that experience for me was not really about using AI to make myself more productive and better. It was really more about surviving AI. I partially survived that, but then I left. And my story with AI changed in a good way with TravelPerk. What was so good about this, and what is still pretty good about this? I think even in this statement is quite different from what Klarna had in mind. And that's TravelPerk basically saying that, yes, we are a travel company, which means we have so many, I don't know, flight cancellations, changes in your plans and stuff like that. We get this from the providers, and our huge customer service team has to constantly email, contact customers, copy-paste so much stuff. So we will be using it as a tool to substitute that manual stuff that is not really fun, because copy-pasting, not very fun. So what is exactly different about that? At TravelPerk, we are the owners of the AI tools and solutions, which means we are trusted to find the best use cases, the best applications. We are the ones deciding where in the workflow we think AI is useful, and which kind of tools we are pitching to stakeholders, and which tools, which applications we think will improve our job. Our expertise in the end retains trust on the strategic level, meaning, yes, we can have AI tools, but we don't have a process where everything is going through the tool, and sometimes we can be consulted. No, we're still retaining our expertise, and we are still working on high-level strategic projects, applying our craft. So at TravelPerk, it's more about how we can become more influential within the company. And I think it's the thing that we all experienced, being more or less influential. Like, there is always a tension between design, product, within design, and different sub-competences. So AI is one of the tools that can help you actually not only deliver better results, but get more influence. So let's see these two examples. Content tool that helps you with quick requests, that double checks if stuff aligns with the guidelines you have and stuff like that. Or a chatbot. Both of these things we have at TravelPerk. And the good UX is right in between. So it's not really about not using AI as a solution and only using it as a tool. I'm just saying that good UX is somewhere in between, because you really need both of them. So AI as a tool is the content tool that helps you write stuff and double check if it aligns with the guidelines. And chatbot that helps your customer service agents focus on more high-level cases is a solution. But what is even AI already good at in terms of content design, in terms of working with content overall? I think most of you might know this already, but yeah, bouncing ideas works great to a certain extent until you have some guardrails installed. Drafting some copy, nothing major, but at least confirming that you have a right direction, and something that you will get will not be perfect, but will be quite good and usable. Of course, some grammar checks, voice, tonality application. Tools like Writer AI allow you to integrate your tonality and voice documentation and helps you stick to it automatically. And of course, localization. But the biggest problem is that all of this still requires evaluation and making necessary adjustments to the results, to how it operates to get better results. Because it constantly goes off rails, it constantly changes what kind of results you get, and it really needs you to control it quite well. So, in my opinion, it's still really not good at solving complex UX problems. And while some of you might feel like this, like what? Especially, I think, product managers. Let me give you a quick example from a real project that I had at TravelPerk. The project is called Hotel Payments. If you ever used not only TravelPerk, but any travel platform, you know that you have an access to many, many hotels you can choose from, filter things out. But in the end, you have several options. You can either pay in advance, or you can pay later when you arrive. So what we also have is called direct payments and indirect payments. Direct payments are quite simple. Direct payment means we take your money and immediately transfer it to a hotel. So the hotel has the money, has the booking, everything is fine. Indirect payments are a little bit more complicated than that. So traveler books a hotel. And yeah, by the moment they need to check into the hotel, we are taking the money, everything is prepaid on our side, but instead of sending the money to a hotel, we are creating a virtual card that is prepaid for the exact amount of the booking. There are so many reasons for that, mostly business, mostly back-end. It doesn't really matter at this point. That's just the reality, and that's how we do it for some of the hotels. And the thing is that we send this virtual card to the hotel to charge it, so we are trying not to involve the user at all. And of course, as you might imagine, some hotels just don't do it on time. So the customer arrives, and their virtual card is asked at check-in. They're confused. What is this card? Why do I need it? I prepared everything. This is weird. So as I said, the reason for that is the type of relationship we have between the TravelPerk and some of our hotels. So our PM takes this problem and goes to ChatGPT or Gemini, it doesn't really matter at this point, and describes the whole problem, describes what's happening and what needs to be fixed in his opinion, and gets something like that. Basically like a chunk of copy. It doesn't really matter that it's long, but the idea here is that he thinks we need to be super transparent. We need to explain that this is how we operate with some of the hotels. This is our business relationship with the hotel. So the AI starts saying things like, okay, so for some hotels, you're actually paying in advance, but we aren't really immediately transferring the money. And this is why, and this is because we have a business relationship and stuff like that. The thing is that if you look at this copy, besides being just long, it's quite fine. Like it's all right. It's well structured. It's readable. It's not really a problem. The problem that we realized we have is that the relationship here is between the traveler and the hotel. It's not between the hotels and TravelPerk. This is what we need to focus at. Like we need to focus on the traveler and their experience. So what I mean by that is when the prepaid card is generated and by the moment they're asked about it at check-in, we need to focus on this. We need to focus on the check-in experience. We need to make sure that by the check-in, the user knows where to find the card, what is this card about, and what kind of money they have on it, how can they pay, what they cannot pay for with this card, and again, where to find it. So when we look at this content, you can see that these are the key problems here. We're talking about not transferring the money to hotel, which is kind of creepy because, like, I paid you. Like, why didn't you transfer the money? Then we're trying to explain that our business relationship is quite complex, and this is what's happening. But instead of doing that, we just started showing this on the hotel page. What you need in check-in, we are talking about what kind of incidental hold you'll have, but most importantly, that there is a virtual card involved, and you will find it in the app 24 hours before check-in. But of course, it's not going to fix everything, but just one line. We, of course, also designed the email and some other notifications that the customer receives, where we step-by-step explain that for this booking, there is a virtual card involved. If you ask for this, this is it. And this project highlighted two major problems with AI application and AI solutions when it's in hands of, let's say, PM or someone. AI is super focused on the perfect solution. So you're asking for a solution, you give all the context. AI is taking the context and trying to come up with something that will kill sort of like all the birds. And AI is easily infected with bias. In this case, PM was super focused on explaining the business relationship. So AI was like, yes, that's the task. We need to explain the business relationship. This is how we do it. There you go. So that's why this is my most favorite meme that I post all the time on Slack, is that AI is so focused on being an absolutist in everything. Everything they give should be perfect. Everything, every solution AI gives should satisfy you, please you. And if you're looking for a solution that explains how your company works with hotels, there you go, you have it. So back to not solving complex UX problems. That's one of the things. Another thing that I don't think will be solved quite soon is alignment between the teams. And that's something I see, I'm sure you also see every day. Like when you work on a project, it's product designer, content designer, researcher. There should be a design manager usually. There is some sort of other stakeholder, engineers trying to come up with all the possible edge cases that you need to know. And of course, a PM. And to make sure that everything is aligned, everyone understands what's happening, to make sure that all the dots are connected and all limitations and edge cases are taken into account, that's really on you, because there is so often a communication breakdown between PMs, engineers, and product designers. And one of the things we do as content designers is serving sort of like a intermediate, like a translator, making sure that everyone is aligned on what we're doing and what kind of problem we're solving. There are so many cases where I had to suggest take a step back and actually ask ourselves what kind of message we're trying to get across, what kind of problem we're trying to solve. Another thing that is quite funny is staying consistent with core UX principles. And for that, I have like a quick example. We were experimenting with AI in our design team, and we had like a design hackathon day. And one of the tools, like a quick ones we wanted to develop, was checker that checks whether content is aligned with our guidelines and core UX principles. Everything was built kind of perfect, everything was nice, until at some point the tool started just quoting random UX principles not involved in the problem or not really even in the guidelines, so it's not even a quote. But you look at it, it looks very professional, you're like, okay, actually makes sense, I think we do have it. Then you go to the guidelines, and there's nothing there. So it needs so much control from your side, and that's why one of the key things is evaluating the output, because there is still a human factor involved on your side to make sure that whatever output you get is aligned with what you're trying to build, aligned with your guidelines and how you're building the product. When we're talking about evaluating the output, I want to pause for a second and tell you about my favorite suggestion that one of my friends had. He's like, okay, I'm a product manager, and here is what I do. I just go to ChatGPT or Gemini, and I say, okay, just act like a senior product manager, create a roadmap for Q3, and then take this result, create it as a senior product manager, and give me a refined version. The problem with that, why it doesn't work, is quite simple. You asked it to provide a solution based on the input data you give to it. You have to be pleased. AI wants to make sure you're happy and satisfied with the result. So if you ask it to criticize it, it will always criticize it. Always. It's unstoppable. It will refine it like for so long that you will get a completely different result in the end. So the only reason, sorry about that, the only reason to actually refine it and like change it is just because you asked for a better output. You asked to create it, and you get it. So in reality, you're not really getting a better output. Most often, you're just getting a different one, or differently phrased, or a completely different one. So I was curious to test it out, and I was playing with ChatGPT, and I was like, okay, I'm making a presentation for this conference. I have all the ideas in my mind, but I kind of don't have the full story yet. Can you help me do this, like build this story, how I want to tell it? And can you ask questions, please, to make sure the solution is really good? In the end, I got like 35 questions. It was not stopping at all. It was asking very similar questions, questions phrased a bit differently, but actually about the same things. At some point, there was even like a question that contradicted the previous question. So I actually had to ask it to stop at some point and start solutionizing. And the fun part is the solution was not even good because it asked so many questions and some of them contradicted itself that it did not come up with a good solution for me, which is good because it means I did this presentation on my own. So back to our list of things that it's not really good at yet. All the things that you see under the solving complex UX problems are actually a part of it. Because to solve a complex problem, you need to make sure that teams align. You need to make sure that the tool or whatever you're using and your team is consistent with the UX principles. And of course, you need to evaluate the output. That's where I want to talk about how our role is shifting and our responsibilities as well. Basically, at this point, not all the companies have this, but I think many are using AI tools to support the content needs, and content needs from PMs and teams that don't have the full support from a content designer or UX writer. So most of the ad hoc things are handled by some sort of tool, either internally built or using something like Writer AI and stuff like that. It means that content design can now focus on bigger things and only devote our time to projects where it's so content heavy, which, for instance, I'm lucky I have so many projects like that at TravelPerk because it's travel industry. You're constantly dealing with people failed trips, failed plans, or successful trips. Like you have so many things to communicate. So there are always projects that are content heavy. But there are small ones where I would waste my time, but I can just have an internal tool, have guidelines in it, and they will help PMs and designers. So, and of course, back to cross-alignment, we are making sure that the teams are connected, like all the dots are connected, and of course, defining the content patterns that can be fed into AI or can be reused within the company. And yeah, of course, we are reusing the outputs. We are evolving the systems we build internally, which means that overall, we have less doing and more decision-making. It means we can focus more on more strategic meetings, more strategic projects, and collaboration close with designers and researchers on projects that are big and high impact. So when we're talking about focusing on stuff, end-to-end or not, I think it's important to talk about what kind of support can we provide when we have AI tools. So when talking about support, I would like to define 3 levels that I see implementing useful for your company. First one would be self-serve, which means you can use either your own AI tool that you build for content changes and content checks, or maybe using just a Gemini or something, or customized one. Checking whether whatever you wrote is compliant with guidelines, checking whether it's compliant with heuristic principles and stuff like that. So really small things are self-serve, which means, and that's something I always suggest, in this case, the project has to be labeled that there was AI involved in this, because first of all, it will help you find all the projects done by AI, where AI one is involved, and evaluate the output later. But also another good thing is that when you're asked about a really bad solution, you're like, I was not even involved in that. I think that self-serve is super useful. It's kind of debatable because while I know product managers and product designers who will be super happy to use a support level like that, I also know that there are product designers, product managers who are like, no, let's actually collaborate on everything. I have all the time in the world, which is I love it, but I think many companies these days don't have that time. Lightweight support, which means we are helping with small impact projects. PMs or product managers, product designers can create early drafts, ideate with the AI, but in the end, content designer is always involved because we need to review it, we need to actually find out whether it's aligned with what we're trying to build, UX-wise and content-wise, and sometimes we will have to say, no, actually take a step back and it requires more support. This one is very important because when you have a lightweight support level and content designer is involved in reviewing something that was done by AI, it's important to make sure that from the very beginning you outline how often you're involved in this, or which kind of projects can be supported in this way. Because you might actually end up constantly reviewing the output and not doing anything content design related directly. And of course, my favorite one of all time is full support, which means we take strategic high-impact projects, we are doing the full design cycle, everyone is involved, and everything is great. I think currently where we are, and I hope it's not going to change like tomorrow or in a month, because everything is so chaotic and everything's moving so fast, I can say that there are 3 pillars of the modern content designer or modern content design. The first one will be building and operating the systems. Second one will be collaborating strategically with other teams and other stakeholders. And the third one will be evaluation, checking how the AI tools are performing, checking whether the whole collaboration between the AI stakeholders, you, other designers, is good enough. When we talk about system building, we mean actually developing an AI tool internally, which is what we're doing now, for instance. Training it, making sure that anything you design and anything you create in terms of content, you always define patterns and principles that can be reused. For instance, like, okay, this is the content design pattern for the price breakdown on the checkout. This is how we treat them. Or this error messages for the booking flows. And it's not only going to help AI tools to give you better output, but also will help designers reuse it when they work on design and when they operate in self-serve mode. And of course, my favorite one, not really, maintaining a prompt library, making sure that whoever is using the AI tool, they know how to actually use it and how to get good results. Otherwise, you will just be constantly chasing and trying to understand why the output is so bad. And it's not even going to be AI fault at the end. Strategic collaboration, I think this one kind of is key, right? Because it's between you, AI, and the process of evaluation. It's making sure that all the knowledge that is scattered around the teams is gathered on time, and everyone who is involved in the project knows what kind of problem we're solving, what input information we have. Of course, taking ownership, as I mentioned before, of content-heavy projects, like actually leading them. For instance, what I love at TrialPark, our content design sub-competence is quite strong, which means when the project is content-heavy, the content designer will be leading it alongside with the product designer. And of course, keeping all the documentation, making sure that the teams know what they're doing, because something that often happened in all of my companies, and unfortunately still happens, I think it's a problem that everyone has, is teams working in silos, not knowing that something has already been designed or defined as a pattern. That's actually on you to make sure everyone is aware of that. And of course, evaluation, analyzing how your tool is performing, making adjustments, reviewing the work that has been done without your involvement, and that's like where we need the labeling. And of course, running constant audits to make sure that since you're not the only one involved on working with content, it's AI tool, it's anyone using AI tool. We need to constantly run some audits to assess whether the quality bar is met product-wide, and it's not like just different random pieces of copy scattered around. And now we're approaching my favorite example, actually. Why is evaluation so important? So we built a chatbot, which helped us deal with users' trips, managing them, canceling them, making changes, and stuff like that. We call him Juno. He's very friendly. I love it because I was working on it. So we defined all the key intents, why the users are contacting Juno. We defined the patterns for the conversations. Everything was going great. And then we decided to enable the generative responses for some group of users to test it out and see how our AI assistant will be helping on its own, using the knowledge base, using everything it can find. And then we decided to review those conversations and see how it's performing. So there was a conversation like this. So the user is saying, I need a train from NY to BO. Juno is like, what do you mean NI and BO? The user says, well, New York and Boston. Do you mean Boston, US or Boston, UK? Kind of a fair question. There is Boston in UK, but at the same time, I would expect it to understand if the user is from US or not, for instance. But that's not the biggest problem. So the user responds, I mean US. And Juno is like, what do you mean US? Do you want me to prepare some travel plans for you for US? What exactly about US? And the customer just rage quits and never gets back to the AI assistants again. Which means evaluating the output of the chatbot, for instance, in this case, is key to actually making sure that your users, first of all, don't hate you, but also they return back and use chatbot again. Because you want it to be a successful solution. You want it to be like just a weird thing that sometimes helps and sometimes doesn't. So we're approaching the end of this presentation, and I want to discuss what's next for us. I think this piece of presentation is actually directed not only to content designers, but product designers as well, in a way. I think that our boundaries are going to be growing and moving outwards. What I mean by that, I will illustrate this with an example of what's happening to product design as I see it. Many product designers are now experimenting with, I hate vibe coding as a thing, like as a name for it. But yeah, they're experimenting with coding, they're experimenting with actually preparing code changes and committing it to GitLab and stuff like that, and actually taking it to production, which is, at first, I was quite unsure how I feel about, because I think everyone has to stick to their own expertise. We are expert at certain things, and I'm not sure if like being a generalist is something I like. At the same time, I know that in any company that is big enough and the product that is big enough, you always have this problem where like we're solving this, and we're releasing this feature, we have a plan, and if you need to change make some adjustments in UI, we will add it to backlog and maybe revisit it next spring, which is like in a year or something. And this way, product designers are already making some of the changes live through code, which I think will, for now, cause problems because there is this untapped territory where I think it's very important not to interfere with other competences. It's important to agree at the very beginning what kind of things are allowed to do, what kind of things will require, for instance, engineer and stuff like that. So I think the same thing will be happening to content designers because we all see Figma Make and other solutions that let you prototype things. And I think from what I saw of product designers using Figma Make and stuff like that, usually nailing down the proper prompt is the key thing. And that's where I know I said I don't like prompting and stuff like that. But at the same time, it means that we have kind of more power when it comes to creating quick prototypes with even Figma Make or something similar and test out our solutions faster. This one, actually, I stole from my good friend and my colleague, Team. Thank you, Team. We were having a chat over coffee because many people are complaining that with AI tools, there will never be any juniors again. And I was kind of agreeing with that, but then Team said, yes, but if we look at, let's say, what Meta is doing, what Facebook is doing, hiring, I don't remember exactly, but it was like 18-year-old person who is like super native in AI and everything, and they're hiring them for like millions of dollars and headhunting these people. I think the same thing will happen with junior. It's just going to be redefined. Junior content designer is not going to be a person who knows something about UX, knows how to write things and how to structure things. Junior content designers will be a person who is super native in using AI tools, super understand how to apply it to the design process. So not just keeping the classic Nielsen-Norman UX principles, but actually knowing how to apply AI better. And the last one, of course, is our judgment remains invaluable. Because in the world full of Junos, chatbots saying, not fully understanding what you're trying to say, there is always content designer and engineer and the product designer trying to fix this and trying to make sure that the chatbot operates well. And yeah, I mean, my last thing is kind of a cycle to the very beginning. I think that limiting yourself as a content designer to prompt engineering is certainly a choice. And it's up to you to, whether you want to be a prompt engineer, solidly working on that or not. Personally, I think I will still focus on using AI as a good tool to excel in UX solutions. Thanks so much. That's actually everything I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Oleksii. Please stay on the stage. Now let's open the floor for questions. If you have any questions, just raise your hand, and Anastasia will hand over you a microphone to ask it. We have one over there. We are waiting for a microphone. Just a second. Yes, just in there. Can you raise your hand once more? Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to ask a question about how your job or future job of designer will change if we will feel that more and more workflows will go to the chat, or if they are going to go to the chat, or you can see this trend that bookings and everything is moving to the chat, and regular making a good form, making a good call to action is less and less important, or you cannot see this trend yet?
I don't think we see it yet, but from what I'm seeing now, from the research we're doing, from the experiments we're running, users still do the old school booking and old school cancellations and managing the trip, even when using the chatbot for it. And even if you imagine that the chat will be used as an interface for booking stuff and actually like starting the whole booking process, not only changing it, I think we are really quite far away from that. Most of the users just do it all the old way. And yeah, I think we're quite far from that. But how it will change, it will definitely involve still content designers and product designers, because there is plenty of stuff to design, even for the chat side. And like we even had a discussion recently about optimizing all the content we have on, I don't know, hotel pages and like all the booking pages to how AI searches and scans the information, which honestly, I'm not yet sure if it's going to be fun and interesting, but that's something we will have to do. So I think that's going to be one of the changes. But I'm also, back to my point about our competence growing outward, I think we will be, I don't know if it's going to upset someone from product design, but I think we're going to be way closer to product design than you can imagine. We're going to be even closer than now. But we'll see. That's just my prediction. I did hear some parts of your question maybe wrongly. So if I didn't answer you, let me know. Cool? Yeah, thank you.
All right, one more question in here.
Thank you for your talk. I feel well seen and kind of validated as a content designer working in a similar setup. Wanted to ask about the role of both product designers and content designers in this. Would you agree that content designers are in a way naturally equipped to work with language models, as we're experienced working with language? And what do you think would be the role of product designers in this collaboration?
Love the question, thank you. Yes, I actually think that I definitely agree with that. I think we're very well equipped working with content and language overall. And I'm seeing this, like working with product designers and product managers and seeing how they operate the AI systems and like how they prompt things and how they talk to it and what kind of results they get. Almost always, and it's not a dig at them, it's like they're doing fantastic with what they have. They don't have the full content design, like just content mindset, but every time I see something, I'm like, okay, I see the solution from, let's say, Figma Make, and I'm like, I definitely know what you asked wrongly here, and this is why it's structured this way, and like, let me help you next time get a better result. I think from our side, we will be working a lot with product designers to teach them this. Not sure yet, like I don't have a take yet on whether it's going to be like, we will teach them that and then we are going to be extinct. I don't think so. But in terms of product design, like it or not, but I think it's going to be very close to coding. I think that what I see, not only in my company, but in other companies as well, product designers are more and more often trying the vibe coding stuff, and it actually works. There are still some sort of conflicts and controversies around whether engineers are happy or whether the engineering manager is happy with the fact that we have our standards and now you're making these changes and we are not sure if we can control all of them. But that's what I see. It's happening more and more. Personally, like I have a diploma in software engineering, and the reason why I'm doing content design exactly because I didn't like it and I didn't want to do this. So I'm not sure yet how I feel about that, but we'll see. I think having AI on your side helps you not hate coding that much. So maybe that's going to be good. Thank you.
Okay, here is one more question.
Hey, regarding the complex problems, if I remember correctly, you said you try to ask AI questions, and you said it didn't work pretty well for you. And for me, for my use case, I see if I started asking some question, but with more limits, like giving me 5 questions about some topic, creative, helps me to expand my mental model a bit, so I can then ask better questions, especially in matter of problem I don't know very well. And just want to ask you if you are like very confident this is not good method, or maybe in sometimes it can work as starter.
Okay. A bit hard to hear from that microphone, but from what I heard, I hope my answer will make sense. I was talking about not me asking questions. It was about like when you go to AI and you're like, okay, can you provide a solution for the problem I have? It starts solutionizing without asking any questions unless you ask it to do, right? So as a good prompt engineer, I was like, make sure you ask all the questions you have, all the context you need should be gathered before you actually give me a solution. And the problem is that it started asking more and more and more and more. The questions were the same, very similar. Some of them were contradicting the questions that were asked before. And it was about the presentation and the structure of presentation. And ChatGPT was like, okay, but do you want your first slide to be like super playful, but the second slide being like very serious? And I was like, no, cool. The fourth slide, do you think it's time to be playful and maybe drop a meme? And I was like, yeah, sure, let's drop a meme. How many memes do you need? Do you need like 15 memes or maybe 50 memes? I was like, let's stick to like 3. 3 memes overall or 3 memes on this slide. Like, it's cool that it's asking this. The problem is that it's a good illustration that it will keep asking it until you're like super satisfied. And it's an example of, I'm already installing some guardrails. I'm telling, please do not solutionize before you get the answers. But I forgot that I need to also add another guardrail and say, do not ask a million questions. Only ask like some questions. Just at some point start solutionizing. And if I do that, there's definitely going to be another problem later. I will be maybe not satisfied with how many questions it asked. So that was more about that. It's like about constantly setting limitations for that. And it's still kind of, I don't want to say fails, but it still doesn't fail to surprise you how many more limitations it needs. Thank you.